health savings accounts. We've talked here before on what 95% of people who have them don't do to maximize their HSA. But today, I'm going to show you why you want to be part of the 5% of people who do, and show you how much wealth you can build over time. Real numbers using realistic average return expectations. If you have an HSA, this is probably one video you won't want to miss. Welcome to Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, where we talk a lot about improving our financial health. My name is Kevin. For many of you in the community, you like hearing about investing in exciting companies, so we talk a lot about that on this channel. Now, we can get lucky and hit it big in the market every once in a while, but for most people, the path to building real, true wealth is by following a solid plan, day after day, month after month, year after year. And an HSA or health savings account can be a big part of that. Maybe not as exciting as getting in early on the next Tesla, but also less risky with a success rate for most people that would be much higher, and it's really easier. And if you're new to the channel, check the video out, and the links I'll provide in the description, and if you like it, definitely subscribe, comment on it, and push that like button, and even share with your family and friends. Because I do tend to do more videos based on what the community is most interested in. And I won't know that unless you do those things. So I'm guessing most of you know what an HSA is. But if you don't, I'm not going to repeat everything here because I already have a video that covers all of that, and I'll link it in the description. Now, if you watch it, keep in mind that it has some of my earlier YouTube work, so I know I come across a little robotic in it, but what can you do? You live and you learn, right? Pretty much what we're all doing here on YouTube anyway. Now, if you watch that video, we talked a lot about how an HSA works, the eligibility requirements, the contribution limits for 2021, and I even shared my own personal strategy on how to maximize the benefits of it. And I'm really proud of that video because the information really has seemed to help a lot of people just from the comments I've received. And I want to give a shout out to Katie who watched that video, got in touch with me, and asked me to present a webinar for her organization, which I really enjoyed doing. Anytime I can help spread the word on something that can really help people, I'm definitely open to see what we can do to make that happen. But back to today's video. It's based on the data that I had shared in that earlier video about how 95% of people who have an HSA don't invest the money that's sitting in the account. And if you're in that majority, that's not terrible because you're still getting 2 of the 3 tax benefits that health savings accounts provide. And just a refresher, those 2 benefits are that 1, any contributions to your account are tax-free, so it comes out of your paycheck without being taxed, or if it comes from an employer putting money into it, which is really good because it's not taxed either and it's like free money, like an employer match in a 401k. And 2, that any withdrawals made for qualified health expenses are not taxed. So if you have a medical expense, you can pull that money out to pay for it or get reimbursed for it, and either way it's not taxed. So those are both 2 very good things. But it's the third of the triple tax benefits of HSAs that are most exciting to me. And again, what 95% of people who have health savings accounts don't do, and that's invest the money in their account, because as it grows, it also grows tax-free. And today I want to show you the implications of this using some graphs. And to do that, we'll look at 3 different scenarios. Now for each scenario, we look at what happens to your money over 20 years. So again, it's not that stock that takes off and doubles in one day, but it's that slow and steady approach that really makes an impact. So let's take a look at that first scenario. Okay, so looking at our first scenario, as you can see on your screen, this is if you put in the max amount for a single person in a year. So that would be $3,600 in 2021. So looking at this, this is $300 a month being put into your account. And this is if you choose not to do anything with it. So again, this is what 95% of people do. They put the money in their account and they don't do anything with it. And they just wait to pull it out later for reimbursement for healthcare expenses. And so what I want to show you is that over 20 years, your total contributions would be $72,300. Okay, so that's a lot of money. If you look at what the growth will be at a 0.07%, and so how I got that number is really what my health savings account would reimburse me for, so it's not a great return investment. But if you think about money you have in your savings account, that's very limited right now. You hardly get anything, right? So when you look at over 20 years, of your $72,300, it grows to $72,810.52. So a little over $500 over 20 years. So that's not a great return. And in fact, you're probably coming out negative when you consider the impacts of inflation, but also with HSAs. And one of the negative parts with HSAs, they tend to have some fees with them. The fees tend to be a little bit higher than they are for like a 401k or an IRA. So you want to consider that. So Anyways, over 20 years, if you just kept your money in there, you didn't pull it out, over 20 years, you probably would be in the negative when you count the account fees and inflation. So this is, again, what 95% of people do. This is assuming, again, you're not pulling out any healthcare expenses. So while you can see that the money sitting in your account doesn't really grow, one point to keep in mind, however, is that, again, it wasn't taxed when it was put in there. So that's definitely a benefit. Now let's move on and look at a different scenario where, again, you take the same amount of contributions, which are $300 a month, and this time you invest it. So again, this is what only 5% of people with HSAs do. And you can see you have the same $72,300, taking a return rate of 7%, which is, over the years of the stock market, tends to be pretty much there. More recently, we've had a lot higher growth, but let's just take 7%, because when you invest your money in an HSA, you have options to be as aggressive or not as aggressive you want to be. So let's just say you take a basic, you're investing mostly in the S&P 500, those kind of funds, and you're getting about 7% return over 20 years. And again, that's very acceptable, and that tends to be the average. So in that time frame, you can see as your money starts to grow, so whereas in the past, if you were just keeping your money in here and not doing it, you would get to that little over $72,000. But with your investment return starting to compound over time, you can see that over 20 years, your money more than doubles, up to $158,312.97. Now, again, there's some assumptions here, and number one is that you haven't taken any of the money out. So all the money that you've put into your account, you've invested it, and it's just sitting there. So again, over time, over 20 years, you more than doubled it. So, and that would definitely outpace inflation, and that would, cover any of the fees that you would have from the HSA itself. So let's look at one more scenario where this might be you're not committed to putting the maximum in every year. So in this scenario, this is if you put in $50 a month. And so this would be about $600 a year. So that means over the 20 years, your contributions are a lot less, just coming in over a little over $12,000. Now, again, but taking that same return rate of 7% that we expected on when we put a little bit more money in, you can see that over time, again, it more than doubles. So you go from a little over 12,000 of contributions, where at the end of 20 years, you're getting at $26,385.50. So again, you can see the growth that you can get from putting your money in an HSA and letting it invest. And again, the biggest benefit of all of this is keeping the money in there, letting it grow. We don't need to pull the money out to reimburse you for expenses, but then years later, after it's grown, having those receipts and then taking the money out so then you can get it tax-free after it's already grown. So you've come out ahead in so many ways. So some pretty eye-popping results, right? Now I know what you might be thinking. That all sounds great, but how can I do this when I'm counting on the money to actually pay for healthcare expenses? And to that point, you absolutely can use your funds to pay for qualified expenses. And depending on your own personal situation, you might have to do this. And again, you're still getting 2 of the 3 tax benefits that HSAs provide, so you're still coming out ahead. But where I might challenge you is on the less costly items that you absolutely can use your HSA to reimburse you with, such as prescription drug co-pays, over-the-counter medicines, things like that, and just pay out of pocket and don't use your health savings account funds. But definitely keep that receipt, because years later, after the money in your health savings account has grown tax-free, you can then use those old receipts to take the money out without being taxed. Again, I talked about this in that video I linked in the description, so definitely check it out to see how it's done, what I do, and how it's 100% allowable to do this. And really, if you're relatively healthy and younger, an HSA is something you should definitely consider while your healthcare needs are low. It could be just a great way to build wealth over the years. And I know it seems like it's so far off, but take it from me, like the exponential growth of the money in your health savings account, the time starts to go by faster and faster. So what do you think? Did you realize you could build so much money over time with your HSA? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, please push that like button and share the link with your family and friends on your social media sites. I mean, this is information I wish I understood when HSAs first came out almost 20 years ago. But it's never too late. Again, if you want to see more videos on HSAs or other ways you can build wealth every day by taking little easy steps, let me know with a comment. I'm always looking for ways to grow the community by talking about the things a lot of you are interested in. But for now, thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day.